Anatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Caitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapad Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratushe Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, and welcome back again to Sri Chaitanya, to Sri Damodarashtakam class. So today we are continuing our study of Damodarashtakam. Last week we had completed the first 3 texts, and this week we are continuing. Actually, last week we had gotten a fraction, or rather halfway into the 3rd text, but we completed it this week, and we began the discussion of the 4th and 5th text. So we began, of course, Namami Shwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalango Kule Brajamanam Yashoda Bhilo Lukala Dhavamanam Param Rishtamatyan Tato Drute Gopya Rudantam Muhur Netra Yugmam Rijantam Karam Bhoja Yugmena Satanka Netram. So like this, we were hearing the many different names, very different ways that Sri Damodar can be worshipped. That Namami, that we are worshipping, this sweet Damodar, this sweet Supreme Personality of Godhead. So many different ways, so many different names. So, and all of them higher and higher and higher and higher in conception, ultimately resulting in the highest conception, Damodar Bhakti Badham. Then we heard, after hearing about these glorifications of Krishna and his Lila, in the 3rd text we hear a further glorification then of those who are hearing the Lila, or rather, we heard the glorification of the Lila itself, and then in the 3rd text we were hearing the glorification of the hearing of the pastimes. Very sweet. And in turn that glorifies those who are hearing the pastimes, the very elevated position that they are all in. So then after this 3rd text, Iti Driksvalilabhir Hananda Kunde Swaghosham Nimajantam Akhyapayantam Tadiyeshitagyeshu Bhaktairjitatvam Punah Prematastan Shatavritti Bande. After hearing this, we move on to the next point, which is texts 4 and 5. So texts 4 and 5, they introduce a shift, if you will, a shift in mood, a shift in theme. After glorifying the Supreme Lord's pastimes, after glorifying the Supreme Lord's form and all these things, we hear a glorification of the glories of Krishna and Krishna alone. And where do we hear this in? Varam deva mokshamna mokshavadhim va nachanyam vrineham varishadapiha. Idam teva purnatha gopala balam sada me manasya virastam kimanyai. So we are hearing this. And then the fifth text as well flows very nicely. Idam te mukham bhojam avyakta nila ritam kuntalai snigdha raktascha gopya. Muhushchumbitam bimba raktadharam me manasya virastam alam lakshalabhai. So actually we can even hear manas me manasya virastam. We are hearing this again and again. And then alam lakshalabhai is meaning a very similar thing to kim anyaihi. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let us now go a little deeper into the fourth text. So, this text 4, again, what was the key word we were discussing? Varam, vara, boons. That vareshad, vareshad. Vareshad is the Supreme Lord who can give any boon. And yet, what is Satyavrata Muni praying? He's saying Varam Deva, this word Deva. Sometimes we translate Deva as demigod, and in many occasions this is the appropriate translation. Deva is referring to the demigods. But in this case, Srila Sanatana Goswami here said there are two ways that we should understand what this word Deva means. One means that he is a supremely effulgent deity. And this is emphasizing, if he is supremely effulgent, he is truly Vareshad. Filled with all this effulgence and opulence, he is surely one who is capable of giving all benedictions, of giving all boons, of giving all wondrous things. This Supreme Lord who is supremely effulgent, who is Deva, he is able to do all of these things. This is one sense of the word Deva. Another sense of the word Deva is that Lord who loves to perform his unlimited beautiful pastimes. And this one is more in relation less to the giving of boons, less to Ishvaram Sachidananda Rupam, and more to he who is Iti Driksva Lilabhir Ananda Ghosham Nimajantam. That Lord who is Iti Driksva Lilabhir Ananda Kunde Swaghosham Nimajantam. That Lord, he is the one who is referred to by Deva, he who loves to execute his many, many beautiful pastimes. So we are finding here two aspects of Deva. The word Deva, if some of you are interested in other languages, we find this word Deva came from Sanskrit in Latin. Deus is what they say in Latin, is what they refer to as God. In principio erat Deus is how in principio erat verbum et verbum erat apud Deum. So there we have Deum. This is a Latin text. So here we find in Latin this word Deva. We can hear the similarity, Deus, Deva. Also we find in Greek, some of you might know this word theology. Theology means the study of God. How? Because logos, which becomes logi, means the logic or the reasoning behind, the system of. And theo comes from theos, which means God. Maybe it's a little difficult to hear, but I'm sure we can somehow detect. Theos, Deva, there is some similarity. Like this. So then, we are hearing like this. So Deva, O Lord, who is either the supremely effulgent personality or he who loves to continuously manifest his beautiful and all relishable pastimes. Varam deva moksham na moksha vadhimva. So I do not want, I am not praying from, vrineham. Vrineham, I'm not praying for, I'm not praying, mokshanna, moksha vadhimva. I'm not praying for moksha or for moksha vadhim. Moksha we know, impersonal liberation is there. Some person might say like this, of course you don't want moksha. Not wanting moksha is no, this is the common to all devotees. This is not a big thing to reject. We hear in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that Bhagavatam has come to cast out all Kaitava dharma, all cheating dharma, all dharma that is a cheating, not real dharma. But what is Kaitava dharma? People have many ideas. Maybe people think Kaitava dharma, this is eating chicken and then saying one is a devotee. This is maybe one, I do not eat meat or even onion or garlic on Fridays or Tuesdays. They might say this is Kaitava dharma. But this is obviously Kaitava dharma. Anyone who isn't an idiot knows that it is foolishness to say, I am pious because I don't eat meat on Fridays. Only rascal idiots hold such a standard. Such a speculative nonsense standard is just blasphemous. No, this is not the point of Kaitava dharma. Srimad Bhagavatam did not need to come down just to make it clear to people that they shouldn't eat meat on Tuesdays or Fridays or whatever rascal speculative nonsense day people come up with. Kaitava dharma is given by Sri Krishna's Kaviraj Thakur in his Sri Caitanya Caritamrita. And the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, we should understand, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he has written that we cannot understand Bhagavatam outside of the scope, outside of the scope of Bhagavatam. Caitanya Caritamrita very nicely frames Bhagavatam. Caitanya Caritamrita is the lens by which we can properly discern the meaning and movements of the Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam. So, how do we understand this then? From that great text which our acharyas have given us and which our acharyas have instructed us is the means by which we can understand the statements of Bhagavatam. It says that Kaitava dharma is composed of four main things. Maybe some of us have heard of them before. Kama, Artha, Dharma, Moksha. This is Kaitava dharma. The four Purush Arthas, the four goals, apparent goals of human life, including moksha, beginning with kama, lust. Because we have lust, we have desire, and so we want to fulfill it. We wish to fulfill this lust. And so in order to fulfill this lust sustainably, we get wealth. And then we get our wealth. And with wealth, we are able to then get our lust. But it is a bit more sophisticated to get wealth than merely to just engage in illicit things, eat whatever terrible foods, like this. So artha is higher, and artha is there as a result of karma. Then higher is dharma, be a good person. Because how can we protect wealth? If everyone just wants artha, everyone will be stealing wealth. How do we protect artha? We protect it by following dharma. In dharma, wealth is protected. In dharma, wealth is maintained. In dharma, those who wish to steal wealth, they are punished. And then, when one is following dharma then, as a result of this, they will begin to realize by ethically introspecting about the world, they'll begin to realize that this world is not so hospitable to me. This world is not where we are meant to be. There must be moksha. Dharma then points to moksha. Like this, they are the result of the other one. And each one is higher than the previous one. So, from here, we are hearing these four goals. But what does Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Thakur say? He says, no, Kaitava dharma. This is nonsense. This is cheating dharma. It is cheating dharma if it doesn't bring one to the true dharma. The only akaitava dharma, the only dharma that is non-cheating dharma is Krishna prema, love for Krishna. This is the only akaitava dharma. This is the only non-cheating dharma. This is the only dharma which provides proper satisfaction, which provides proper fulfillment of all that dharma is. Dharma is Krishna prema, love for Krishna. So moksha is rejected. And of course, moksha should be rejected. Moksha is not such a great thing. Actually, sometimes moksha seems rather boring, floating in Brahman effulgence forever. Yes, it's better than the material world in a sense. Even in one sense, it's not. In one sense, it's worse than the material world because there's less opportunity to perform devotional service. But in another sense, there is less suffering. So we can, to a degree, have some joy in that. But it is still no great thing. So very naturally, Satyavrata Muni, he is saying, I do not pray for this. What is more interesting, however, is that he says, moksha vadhimva. Not only do I not want moksha, but I do not want any of the higher forms of moksha, any of the ranks of moksha going up, 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 up. What are these ranks? We should know. This is commonly known. First, there is Sayujya Mukti. These are the different muktis, the different mokshas that are available. So there's first Sayujya Mukti. Sayujya Mukti is, as we know, it is a lot like the Brahman effulgence. It is the first type of moksha that is described. It is merging into the impersonal Brahman. So this is the first one that is mentioned. And this is already the moksha that has already been rejected. But moksha vadhimva means everything else, all of the many levels leading up to the highest form of moksha. And these are all the various forms of mukti. What else are they? They are then samipya. Samipya mukti means to be granted a location near to Krishna, to Vishnu, to Narayan in the Vaikuntha planets. Sarupya means to be given a form like the Supreme Lord in Vaikuntha. And sarshti, sarshti means to be given fortune, infinite fortune like the Supreme Lord. So like this, they are all related to the Supreme Lord. And these ones, they are a little less, they're a little more controversial to reject. To reject moksha makes sense. In the impersonal Brahman, without there being distance, there is no room to serve. Sometimes we think, oh, I want to become one with Krishna because that is very nice. But distance is nice because distance gives us room to love, room to serve, and room to dance with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are not opportunities that are availed to us in Sayujya Mukti. And so it is not controversial. It makes very much sense that Satyavrata Muni would reject this Sayujya Mukti by saying moksha. I do not pray for mokshana. What makes less sense is moksha vadhimva. All of these other forms, because these other forms of mukti, they come from devotional service. What are we to think? In the Vaikuntha planets, they are not executing devotional service? One can only enter into the Vaikuntha planets through devotional service. When Brahmaji performed great tapasya, great austerities, he performed all of these. And he performed them in order to have vision, in order to execute the desire of the Supreme Lord, who had ordered him to do so that he may exhibit Vaikuntha Loka before Brahma and speak Sri Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam to him. And yet after executing all of this tapasya, after executing it, Srila Prabhupada, he writes that actually the Supreme Lord was not pleased by the tapasya. We should understand that alongside the tapasya, devotional service was also executed. Otherwise, we cannot say that the Supreme Lord was pleased. And we can also say that Vaikuntha could not have been revealed to Brahma if Brahma had not performed or executed devotional service. Very sweet. So, in order to be in Vaikuntha, there must be bhakti. And yet all these forms of mukti are there. And these forms, though, they are being rejected by Satyavrata Muni. He's saying even this, even going back home, back to Godhead, to Vaikuntha Lok, even this I am rejecting. So he has done away with any prayer for this. We are reminded of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, as we know, was a great Mayavadi proponent, a great preacher of the Mayavadi school. And when Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived in Jagannath Puri, he fell down ecstatic upon having darshan of Sri Jagannath. Having darshan of Jagannath, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was so ecstatic, he passed out. And Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, seeing this personality, he thought, no human being can be showing these symptoms. Of course, he didn't make the logical assumption that if no human being can be showing these symptoms, then what you're witnessing is no human being. You are witnessing the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. But Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya did not make this connection. This connection he did not make. So then he said, however, I will take this person. And taking Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, taking him to his house, he sheltered him. And he and by doing this, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was sheltered and he eventually came back to his external consciousness. And upon hearing that Mahaprabhu, upon his awakening, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, he heard, oh, you are a sannyasi from which line? Oh, you come from a Bharati line? This is not first class line. Don't worry. I will teach you Vedanta. I will teach you Vedanta, and by teaching you Vedanta, you will then be trained up and qualified to take sannyas from a Saraswat line, because I can see you are a very special soul. Just you wait. You are a Vaishnava sannyasi? Oh, that is very cute. I will teach you the true essence of Advaita Vedanta in the line of Sri Pad Shankaracharya. So, like this, Srila Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya was speaking, and he was saying, I will preach to this personality. I will teach him all he needs to know, and then after he learns all of this from me, then he will take sannyas from a much nicer sannyasi line, because I actually have somewhat affection for him. I have affection for this personality. So saying like this, Mahaprabhu, he was very submissive. He was very fine. He was very respectful. And he accepted this offer, even though Mahaprabhu's associates were very angry at hearing this. Mahaprabhu said, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, he is like my uncle. He is doing this out of the mercy of his heart. How can I say no? Why should you all be so angry at him saying this? This is the sweetness of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, that he is giving me the option to hear from him Vedanta. So anyways, so for 7 days then, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, he speaks. And what does he speak? He speaks Vedanta. And speaking Vedanta to Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu is silent for 7 days. And after 7 days, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, he became confused. And he said, hey, Vedanta is very hard to understand. It is no simple thing. Yet you haven't asked any questions? And Mahaprabhu said, I'm condensing the pastime. Mahaprabhu said, actually, it makes no sense to me. And Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya says, hey, why didn't you ask then? Mahaprabhu says, well, actually, Vedanta, the Brahma Sutras are very clear. Only a fool can cloud their meanings. It is only your explanation, your philosophy that makes no sense. And then from that, obviously, a natural debate ensued. And in this debate, Mahaprabhu completely, through the power of his silence, it was by his silence that he opened up Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya to the mercy of being liberated from his Mayavad misconceptions. So by his silence he preached. This is the glories of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What a personality that he could preach through silence. So like this, he preaches, and eventually Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he becomes convinced of Krishna consciousness. He rejects his Mayavad conception. And then there is a new Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in town. This Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, when he has brought Mahaprasad, before Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya being in the line of Shankara, he was very careful about following rules and regulations. Very pakka. But when Mahaprasad was given to this new devotee, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Shri Shri Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya ki jai. When this prasad was given, he did not even clean himself properly. He immediately honored this Mahaprasad. And everyone is very happy to see that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has now become a devotee. He has understood devotional service. So, upon hearing this, all the devotees were very, very happy. And so he would continue his relationship with Mahaprabhu. And so at times, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he would say Bhagavatam shlokas to Mahaprabhu. They were constantly engaged. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So they were constantly engaged in speaking and reciting Bhagavatam to each other. And so constantly being engaged in these discussions. Sometimes Mahaprabhu, he would ask Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to recite shlokas. And so there was one shloka spoken by Brahma. And in this shloka, how does it go? Tatte nukampam su samikshamano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam hridvagvapur bhir vidadhan namaste jiveta yo mukti pade sadaya bhak. So here, this is a wonderful shlok by Brahma, which translates as, my dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. But when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya recited this text, what did he say instead? He said, Tatte nukampam su samikshamano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam hridvagvapur bhir vidadhan namaste jiveta yo mukti pade sadaya bhak. No, sorry, he said, Jiveta yo bhakti pade sadaya bhak. Jiveta yo bhakti pade. Not mukti pade, not to the position of liberation, but to the position of bhakti. Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he changed this. And Mahaprabhu, he was saying, hey, you know who I am. Don't pull this trick on me. I was there when Brahma spoke these words. I know it is mukti pade, not bhakti pade. So Mahaprabhu, he called him out. He said, why are you saying bhakti pade instead of mukti pade? I know the shlok. The shlok goes mukti pade. And so Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he says, I am so revolted by this idea of mukti. I wish to say bhakti instead. And then Mahaprabhu, he said, well, actually the word mukti can also be interpreted in a way that is not contradictory to Vaishnava values. And this is if you understand it as sarshti, sarupya, salokya, like this. If we understand it in this way, then this is not contrary to Vaishnava values. This is not contrary to Vaishnavism. But Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he said, sorry Mahaprabhu, but no matter what, the very distaste that I have because this word is used so regularly to refer to impersonal liberation, I have all these negative, toxic associations that are associated with this word, and therefore I cannot hear it. But the word bhakti is shuddha, bhakti is pure, bhakti is free from all things in of itself and in connotation. So I can say this word bhakti and enjoy it so much. And even though one might hear this and one might think, hey, this doesn't make sense, but Mahaprabhu was very, very happy to hear this. He was very happy to see the change in heart of Srila Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. And being pleased with this change in heart, he was very, very pleased. And so were all of the devotees and all of the scholars who converted following Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya. So here we find this idea that actually there is not so much value in this mukti. And we can find also in the comments of Mahaprabhu, though, however, that the other forms of mukti, salokya, sarupya, like this, they are not contrary to devotional service. And yet still, in a similar way, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, Srila Satyavrata Muni, he is rejecting them. Very deep, very sweet, very profound. So then, what else is he rejecting, however? He's saying, Chanyam vrineham vareshadapiha. I do not want anything else. Cha anyam. Now, cha anyam could mean two possible things. Cha anyam could, on the one hand, mean all of the other things that exist. And this is one meaning. But this is not necessarily the meaning that Satyavrata Muni has in mind. The meaning that he has in mind is indicated a little later on. And it is a second meaning. So anyam, anything else, this is true. He is rejecting anything else. I mean, what else is there? If one is rejecting even having a planet in the same way as the Lord, to have a form like the Lord, what other thing could there be? But just to be clear, Satyavrata Muni, he has made the point, cha anyam, nothing else. Nothing else is there. So, he is making this point. And this is a valid meaning. But specifically, he is making one point. Because actually, it should be understood. If a person is rejecting all boons, then they're rejecting anything else material. So, there is another meaning. And this meaning is that I am rejecting any other benefit that the 9 forms of bhakti, the Navavidha bhakti, Shri Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. The 9 forms of bhakti that Prahlad Maharaj has so nicely given out in the Bhagavatam. We know this famous text. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam. Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. So there are all these various forms of devotional service. 9. I messed it up. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. No, I didn't. I got it right. Sorry, I second guessed myself. No, so we understand here. These 9 forms of bhakti, they give so many different benefits. The glories of devotional service are unlimited. Even all the other benefits that are given, Satyavrata Muni, he is saying, I do not want those. Yes, they can give moksha, but any other benefit they can give, I reject those as well. I am not praying for those. Vrineham vareshad apiha. Apiha. Apiha is where we understand why it must refer to these forms of devotional service. Because what does iha mean? Iha means here. Here where? Here in Vrindavan. Here in Sri Vrindavan Dham. And there is a very, very special, sweet meaning to this. Because he is making a specific point. Here in Vrindavan. Here in Vrindavan, what are they speaking about? We're not speaking about other material things when we are saying here in Vrindavan. When we are saying here in Vrindavan, we mean something very specific to bhakti. In fact, what the point he is making is tying into the next text. Because he's saying, Iha, in this place, I am in Vrindavan. I do not want any of these things. Because I am in Vrindavan, because I am in Vrindavan Dham, I do not want any of these other considerations. I do not want them. These considerations do not concern me. I am here in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, it is the land only of bhakti. So the conversation is only surrounded around the concepts of bhakti. So by saying Iha, he's saying here in Vrindavan, I do not want any of these things. But what do I want in Vrindavan? I want something that can only come in Vrindavan. Idam teva purnatha gopala balam sada me manasya virastam kimanyahi. Idam, so this Tevapur, Tevapurnath Gopala Balam, this Vapu, this form, which is Te, which is your, which is what sort of form? It is Vapur Gopala Balam. It is a form of the young cowherd boy. Nath, oh Lord, this form. What do I want? This is what I want. Varam deva moksha na moksha vadhimva nachanyam vrineham varesha dapiha. I do not want anything. O giver of boons who can give all things, there is only one thing that I want. Idam teva purnatha gopala balam sadame manasya virastam kimanyahi. I only want that this beautiful form can be manifested in my heart forever. Forever, I would like to see this beautiful form in my heart. This is the only thing I pray for. All these other things I have, can we, so many of us, we are singing Damodarashtakam every night. Are we able to sing like this? Are we able to say, Krishna, I do not want any opulence. I don't want success in my job. I don't want anything good for myself. I don't want any money. I don't want any luxury. I don't want any fame. I don't want any recognition. I don't even want to go back home, back to Godhead. All I want is that your beautiful, sweet form can be manifest in my heart forever. How many of us can say this? Maybe some of the elevated members, some of the more elevated members of us, at least definitely not me, can say, I do not want any boon, I only want moksha. But how many are ready to say, I do not even want moksha? Maybe after understanding the glories of devotional service, some will say, oh, it makes sense that I do not want moksha. It makes sense to reject moksha. But then how many can say, I want to reject going back home, back to Godhead? How many can say like this? Going back home, back to Godhead, if I'm not seeing this beautiful form of Krishna, is empty to me. How many of us can say this? How many of us can pray this? We should meditate as we are praying on this. Even if we are not capable to make such a statement, even if we are not capable to say such a thing, still, we should pray that we might one day be qualified to say such a thing. We should feel this way. So, in this way, we should understand these prayers. We cannot pray genuinely like this. So, in general, when there are prayers like this that are beyond our spiritual advancement to pray, we should think we are merely repeating the prayers of Satyavrata Muni. And we should pray that by the mercy of Satyavrata Muni and the great acharyas, we one day will be able to genuinely pray this text. This is why when we sing Gora Arti, we say, Shiva Shuka Narada Preme Gada Gada Bhokoti Binoda Dekhe. Bhakti Binod Dekhe. Bhakti Binod Dekhe means that Bhakti Vinod is saying. Because how can we say, Kiba Jaya Jaya Gora Chander Arati Koshobha Janovita Tavane Jagamanalobha. How can we say that we are seeing this? We are not seeing this. We are not seeing Mahaprabhu's wonderful arati on the banks of the sacred river. We are not seeing this. How then can we pray? How then can we be so bold to claim that we are seeing this? We are not so bold, and we do not do so. When we sing such great bhajans, we are singing in the mood that Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he is feeling these things. He is seeing those things. And we are merely repeating his words. But we are praying that we might one day might be able to see these things, to feel these things, to know these things. So, in this way, we should pray. Because it's a very high thing. How many of us genuinely feel that we want this? That we want, in comparison to all other options, all that we want is idam teva purnatha gopala balam sada me manasya virastam. That we want this form to be manifest eternally in our heart. Not very many of us, but we should pray, we should hope, pray to the spiritual master, pray to Satyavrata Muni, pray to Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, Sri Sri Radha Damodar. Pray to them that we can attain such a desire. And if this is, and by their mercy, maybe we have a chance. And then how does he conclude? He says, Kim Anyahi, because he's making the point. Kim Anyahi means, what are the other things? And it means, what is the use of all the other things? What do I need for boons? What do I need for boons? What do I need for all of these other options? I need none of them. If only I can have this form constantly in my heart. We must also note there is a very sweet meaning to this in the heart. Satyavrata Muni is not praying for the Lord to appear before his eyes. He is praying first that the Lord's form will eternally appear in the heart. Because actually this is the way. Until and unless we are already on the full highest platform, which of course in a sense Satyavrata Muni is, but he is playing the role of the sweet, lowly devotee. If we are to understand originally our senses, what can they see? Our senses are faulted by the four faults. There's a cheating propensity. There's the tendency to become illusioned. The senses are imperfect and the senses are limited. And because of this, we cannot see the Supreme Lord. And even if we could see him, we could not understand. Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tama Aham Bhajami. We should understand this. We should know this. So then, what to do? What to do with this? We should understand that the way that we can see the Supreme Lord is first if we meditate on him within. This is Krishna consciousness. His Holiness Gaur Govinda Maharaj would ask his disciples sometimes, how often are you thinking of Krishna? How often are you meditating on his beautiful transcendental form? How often are you thinking about his sweet pastimes? Not just doing seva, as glorious as seva is. How much of that seva is coming to fruition and you are thinking about Krishna directly? We should always be trying to cultivate this. And we should always be trying to cultivate this form of the Lord within. Meditate on him within. And by the purification of meditating on the Lord within us, gradually and gradually, eventually our senses will become purified. And our senses will become spiritualized. And we will no longer be seeing just with these limited senses. We will be seeing with the transcendental senses of the spiritual reality. And at that point, we will be able to see Damodar before us, before our senses. But before then, we should pray that Damodar, he appears in our heart. So like this, we should understand. But it may be wondered, Krishna may be saying, it may be wondered, what exactly does he mean? Kim anyahi. This is a very rich, very, very rich statement by Srila Satyavrata Muni. He is saying, almost in a response to Krishna, to Krishna's asking rhetorically. Because Krishna may ask, Krishna may say, if you do not want any of these benedictions, what do you want? And then Satyavrata Muni, he is making the point. I don't want any of these things. The whole second part of the text, idam teva purnatha, it is responding to a question. A question asked by Krishna. Krishna is saying, what do you want? You don't want anything. What is the thing that you want? Idam teva purnatha gopala balam sada me manasya virastam. I want this beautiful form. I don't want there just to be the Paramatma in the heart. I don't just want the all-pervading Paramatma who is in all things to be watching in my heart. I do not want to meditate and see the Paramatma. I want to see this beautiful Damodar in my heart. This is what Satyavrata Muni is praying. And then Krishna, he may rhetorically ask, he may say, hey, well then why not take liberation, moksha, residence in Vaikuntha, all of these things, they are incredibly rare. I will give you this vision of myself in your heart, but take these other things as well. Just take them. And Satyavrata Muni says, even if you give me these things as well, they are useless to me. Many people will seek after these things. Moksha, sarupya, all of these things, sarupya mukti. These things are useless to me. I do not want them. What point do they have if I have this form meditating in my heart? With you, Krishna, I need nothing. And without you, there is nothing that can satisfy me. You are all that I need, and if I have you, I need nothing else. You can satisfy me entirely, and without you, nothing else can satisfy me. Krishna, you in this form, in this sweet, beautiful form of Gopala Balam, in this form you have rendered all other items useless. Because without the darshan of this form, all other items serve me no use. But with darshan of this form, they also serve me no use. Then, Bhagavan may ask another question. And this is another meaning of Kim Anyai. Kim Anyai may not be referring, necessarily just to the forms of moksha, the many different varams, the very many different boons that could be offered. This might not be the only meaning of Kim Anyahi, that he is saying, I do not want any of these other forms of liberation. Because Krishna very well might have said, well, I can give you darshan of my Vaikuntha forms. What a great darshan. What if I give you those? And there Satyavrata Muni, he is saying, there is no use to me seeing any other form of the Lord. This is the intense, selective devotion that the pure devotee has to the Supreme Lord. That they have to Krishna. Krishna's devotees do not desire to see anything else. They only want to see this beautiful form of Krishna. That is their only desire, their only intention, their only wish. So then he is saying, I do not have any need for anything else. The gopis, when they were running around looking for Krishna, Krishna decided as a joke at one point, I will manifest my form, one of my Vaikuntha forms. And the gopis running into this form, they were shocked. And they said, oh, here is the Supreme Lord. But upon seeing him, they weren't thinking, wow, here is the Supreme Lord, let us pray for all these great things. No. What did they pray for? They said, have you seen Krishna? We are looking for Krishna. This is the resolve we must have. This is the resolve we must have. We must not be taken here or there. Not that we disrespect other forms of the Supreme Lord. Not that we disrespect Ramchandra. Not that we disrespect Hayagriva. Not that we disrespect Varahadev. Not that we disrespect all these forms. We have so much respect. But our desire is not to see them. Our desire is to see Gopala Balam. And to see what? See him constantly in the heart. Not just every once in a while. Not just on Ekadashis. Not just on Kartik, during Kartik month. But always. Always we should be desiring this. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. This should be our desire. That we are constantly engaging in this. We are constantly meditating on this form. This is the model of how our desire should be formed. And how can we do that? We do that again. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. By hearing Bhagavatam and by serving Bhagavatam. By serving the book Bhagavatam, by hearing it, speaking it, studying it, and by serving the person Bhagavat, by rendering menial service unto Vaishnav Thakur. Like this, we should pray. And that way we too can also taste. Gopala Balam Sada Me Manasya Virastam Kimanyahi. And so then what is the point of all these other forms? Even if we could go to Vaikuntha, what is the point? Sometimes people say, why do you chant? I chant for liberation. No, devotees, we reject this. Sometimes people say, what is the point of ISKCON? To bring liberation, to bring people to Vaikuntha. No, we reject this. The point of spiritual life, the point of chanting, the point of everything that we do in our line is for one purpose and one purpose alone. And what is that purpose? That we can pray that this sweet form of Gopala Balam can be manifest in our heart, sada, constantly. So then, on this note, we will conclude text 4, and then we will begin to discuss text 5 a bit, and then we will conclude for tonight. So, how does text 4 go? Varam deva mokshana mokshavadhim va na chanyam vrineham vadeshadapiha idanteva purnatha gopala balam sada me manasya virastam kimanyahi. And then we go on to the next text, which is completely continuing this train of thought. It begins with the same word that the second half of text 4 begins with. Idam, this. Idam te mukham bhojam atyanta nilair vritam kuntalai snigdha raktaischa gopya mohoshchumbitam bimba raktadharam me manasya virastam alam lakshalabhai. So here we find this text is very, very, very similar to text number 4. So we'll quickly go through the word for word, and then tomorrow we will discuss this text in more depth. So he's continuing the point about the idams. This. What is it that I want? So firstly, the first thing that we heard he is describing, idam teva purnatha gopala balam. I want to see this form as the young cowherd boy. Gopal means protector of the cows. Then what is the next thing he wants to say? Idante mukham bhojam avyakta nilair vritam kuntalai snigdha raktaischa gopya. Muhushchumbitam bimba raktadharam So this is what he wants. Idam, this, your, te, the mukham bhojam. Remember we were saying, this is the lotus-like face. This is a different word. You might say, well, earlier on we were hearing, karam bhoja yugmena. So it is similar. But instead, remember we said, they say hand lotus. Again, mukha mukham bhojam. Mukha ambhoja. The mouth lotus. So the lotus-like face of the Lord, which is avyakta nilar. Nilar is this very intense blue. The blue of monsoon clouds even. Vritam, so this very, very surrounded, this very dark blue. So the lotus-like face, which is vritam, surrounded. Surrounded by what? Avyakta nilar, very dark blue. Kuntalai, curling locks of hair. So the lotus-like face is surrounded by these very, very dark blue. Avyakta nilai, nilai kuntalai. So his lotus face is surrounded by very dark blue curling locks of hair. Snigdha raktaishcha gopya. Muhushchumbitam bimba rakta dharam me. So overall this text, it means they're then saying that this hair, it is tinged. It is tinged with some sort of red. Some sort of red, which is coming where? In Raktaish. Raktaish. So Snigdha Raktaish. So there is some hint of some reddish tinge. Then, what is he saying? Cha. Remember I said for text 4, we should understand these words. Na, not, va, or, and, cha, and. Here we find it again. So, this sweet, soft and glossy hair, raktaish, the avyakta nilayar snigdha raktaish kuntalai. Cha, also, gopya, by Mother Jashoda. Not just any gopi, but specifically Mother Jashoda. Gopya muhush chumbitam bimba rakta dharam. I would like this gopi, Mother Jashoda, again and again. Muhu, remember muhushwasa kampa tri rekanka kantha. Now we are hearing it again. Muhush chumbitam. Chumbitam, she is kissing. Muhush chumbitam bimba rakta dharam me. So the lips, they are very reddish, very sweet, like the bimba fruit. And then again we hear, me manasya virastam alam laksha labhai. In my heart, may this be manifested. Alam, everything else is useless. What is useless though? Not everything else. Alam, useless is what? Laksha labhaihi. Millions of attainments of all other boons are useless if I have this thing manifest in my heart, this wonderful form. So we can see text 5 is very much continuing the logic of text 4. So on that note, we will conclude for today the discussion of Sri Sri Damodarashtakam, and then tomorrow we will continue our discussion of text 5. Shri Sri Damodarashtakam ki jai, Shri Satyavrata Muni ki jai, Srila Sanatan Goswami ki jai, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Sri Kartik Masi ki jai, Shri Sri Radha Damodar ki jai, Shri Sri Radha Gopinath ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna.